pretty much all of our fresh water depends on production and filtration from other living things. Obviously, our food grows from other living things. And then these climate system aspects also, that absorbing heat at radical scale, which is something that we haven't really talked about in our climate discussions, but vegetation is our best heat buffer. And that vegetation circulates moisture, and those two components are required to keep the Earth system alive, but they also regulate temperature. And then there's enormous greenhouse gas reduction benefits. Can we turn things around from this extreme crisis that we're in? It turns out we have the most biological material, maybe the only biological material in the known universe on this planet. And so this is one quick visualization of that the bottom right corner shows bedrock. 600 million years ago, the first slime mold crawled up out of the ocean onto land. Prior to that, in the billions of years of Earth, there had never been life on land, according to the archaeological record. And so this life that crawled up out of land on the land has been a net positive now for at least the last 600 million years, meaning that caramel colored piece in the middle, that's the soil that is basically decomposed biological material for these eons, these hundreds of millions of years, and that we have a net positive accrual of this every year. We can regrow life on this planet faster than we can install it anywhere else. And we can restore literally anything, it appears. This is one example. We've shown several examples. This is a place that was completely dead in the Amazon. It was totally toxified to extract gold. And all they had to do to fix it was come in. What you see on the right is about 15 years later. And so they came in and removed some toxic material, put on sewage sludge to recreate the microbial community in the soil, covered the soil and did some nitrogen-fixing tree plantings, and came back 10 years later after the system was allowed to rewild, as it were. And as the system stood at that point, they were able to do maybe 80 to 100 first tree plantings. And because it's in the tropics, and because the tropics are where moisture circulates 365 days a year over the equatorial system, and this is a wet rainforest, this system regrew in probably 3 years. You could count on tropical canopies coming into maturity in 3 to 5 years in many places on the planet, and it's actually where we need them the most right now. And here we have an example of how accessible it is in the absolute worst case scenario. So the place on the right is full of jaguar, fruit-bearing trees, and it's a living, breathing organism. Again, it's a giant system that is helping to. Those trees are made of carbon dioxide. About 50% of the tree is carbon, and so on and so forth. This is an extremely positive climate solution that keeps the rate of global warming from accelerating. And so natural regeneration is a principle we want to apply to
presentation, just to kind of tell you about who Plant with Purpose is, tell you my story along the way, and then I have a 5-minute video that we shot this summer in the Democratic Republic of Congo that kind of shows what it looks like in action. But yeah, I'd love to hear any questions that any of you have. So Plant with Purpose, like Chris said, we're a faith-based Christian nonprofit organization focused on reversing deforestation and poverty around the world by transforming the lives of the rural poor. We operate on about $4 million a year, growing, but we've actually found that at this size we can have a pretty big reach because a lot of the work that we do is actually quite cost efficient and effective. And like Chris said, we're in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Asia right now only northern Thailand, but we've been kind of bouncing across the borders into neighboring countries from there. And then in addition to Tanzania, Burundi, and the DRC, we're also launching in Ethiopia any day now, which is really exciting. So Plant with Purpose, faith-based nonprofit. We don't work only with Christians. Our work is basically just to serve people. What we do talk about a lot is the fact that where we came from stems out of a response to faith, that we believe that we're entrusted as stewards of the earth and that our job is to take good care of it.